So, this is who he is, Chris Watts. He is a guy that took the life of his wife while she was pregnant with their son and his two daughters. His wife's name, Shanann Watts. His daughters, Bella and Celeste. Celeste was 3 years old and he smothered her. Bella, 4 years old, and he smothered her. He took all of their lives due to him being selfish and wanting a brand new life. Yes, he was having an affair, and yes, they were having financial issues, but why not think about divorce? Hey there, Cerise here. Thank you for joining me, and welcome to Storytime, Coffee and Crime. This series is going to be about Chris Watts. Guys, you know, on my channel, I have done story time before, and a lot of you guys have requested for me to do more, and I have listened. And a lot of you guys have requested for me to do them like this, in video fashion. And I thought to myself, well, why not? And at the same time, I will do true crime, and I will introduce new topics like of real crimes that happened. And then that way I can also show you photos and different things of what is happening within the story itself. So of course, what is true crime? It is about people who do crimes, and most of the time they are so interesting to the point where we're like, why did they do that? You know, and so this is the case that I wanted to share with you guys. Chris Watts, he is a gentleman who was raised in North Carolina with his mother and his father and his sister. And he was like your all American type of guy. He liked his sports, and he was a very polite dude. His mother, during an interview after everything, the crime was done, they asked her, were there any signs as to, you know, your son doing something like this in the past? Were there any signs at all? And she said no, he was never in trouble with the police. He was just socially awkward. So socially awkward, what does that mean exactly? Did it mean that his mother kind of jumped in for him a little too much? Cindy Watts is his mother, and she does seem like the type of woman who is very opinionated, very loving, and can somewhat be overbearing. And I think that maybe she stepped forward a little bit too much when she noticed that her son was socially awkward when he was younger. I think she stepped in, and instead of giving him certain opportunities to grow during certain stages, I think she nipped him in the bud. Not emasculated him, but nipped him. That doesn't mean that he was a bad guy. In fact, Chris was a very nice guy, and a lot of people say that he's so nice, he's so quiet, he's so laid back. They're so surprised that he would do something like this, just snuff out his whole entire family. And, you know, his 4-year-old daughter, Bella, his 3-year-old daughter, Celeste, who they called Cece, and also his wife pregnant with their first son, Miko, Shanann, his wife. Why did he take their lives? That doesn't make sense. Well, because of his mistress. You know, and again, let's just get back to him and his mother. Okay, so I do believe Cindy jumped in a lot, and when there were opportunities for Chris to grow a little bit more socially, I don't think he was giving those opportunities, because I think Cindy was overbearing, and not in a negative way. I think she meant well. And I think that's exactly what she did as well during the marriage of Shanann and Chris. But let's just rewind a little bit. And so Chris was a kid. At times he struggled with his weight in his adult years, you know, but he got into his 20s, and he was on Facebook, and he contacted Shanann, the woman that he ended up taking the life of. When he contacted Shanann, at that point in her life, she was going through some real challenges, health challenges and emotional challenges in regards to relationship. She had just gotten out of a bad relationship, and on top of that, due to her health issues, She didn't really have a lot of friends around her at the time. She felt like some of her friends just kind of skedaddled, took off. And you can't really blame her. Shanann is the type of woman who is a good friend herself, I believe. And the reason why I say this is because she seems like within the text messages that were brought to light during the whole investigation, she seemed to be really like a girl's girl, you know, really true with her friends, very honest about herself. And so, you know, in one of excuse me, in one of the interviews that I had seen with her, that she, not interviews, sorry, one of the videos that I had seen of her, one of her inspirational videos, actually, she used to do a lot of inspirational videos. She spoke about people in her past and friends that she had to let go of because she felt they were not there for her. And I don't think it's because she was negative. I do think she was placing expectations onto her friends that were unnecessary. But people who are very good friends themselves, they tend to do that. People who would do anything for their friends in regards to making sure they're fine, they're taken care of, and check up on them. You know, when their friends don't reciprocate that, they take it very personally. And I think that's what Shanann did with a lot of her friends from the past during her time of sickness. And that's when Chris met her. So she was just going through a huge transition in her life at the time. Now she's going through this transition with health concerns, lupus, right? And he asks for her friendship on Facebook, and she's like, okay, sure, why not? Like, what's it gonna hurt? She's never gonna see him in person, but she ends up seeing him in person. And when she sees him in person, she falls for him the same night, and he falls for her. Apparently, after that, they were pretty inseparable. That night that they were first together on their first date, she wasn't feeling well. Her lupus was acting up, and so she was tired, and you know, she just needed to lay her head down. And she laid her head down on Chris's lap for 3 hours. And you know, I think that's beautiful, but that should have been her red flag, her first one. You know, like, why was he so needy? Here she is, the sick one, and she just wanted some love and some time and closeness. So I can understand that, you know, that was like a blessing for her to be able to just be loved during a time of that in life like that, and to be able to have somebody not judge. You know, I think for her it was a blessing, but for him, you know, at the end of the day, why was he so needy? Why was he doing this? Was he called to take care of her? Right? Was he called to make sure that she was taken care of? If so, then why did he take her life? You know, I really believe that old saying where it says that we date people who are like our parents. And I believe that Shanann and Cindy are somewhat the same. And neither one of those ladies would probably like it because they don't get along. Chris's mother and Chris's wife did not get along. They didn't like each other very much. And Cindy made it very clear by not going to their wedding and by not going to one of the birthday parties for the grandchildren. They have 2 children. Okay, let me back up a little bit. So now these 2 are on their first date. They're enjoying life, and all of a sudden, you know, Shanann could probably see from the get-go that Chris was not all there together as a man. And you know, Chris was probably not trying to be there all together like man. He probably wanted someone's shoulder to cry on, and he probably wanted someone to laugh with and enjoy life with. But I think things got real serious really quickly with the 2 of them due to Shanann's lupus, and also due to Shanann being a strong woman and Chris being the laid back type of dude. I think they just kind of got into a real hurried relationship, and bam, they did everything what people do naturally. Get a home, you know, start putting their money together, start having children, and Shanann just went at it. Shanann was on fire. And Chris went along with it because, Chris, I don't think he knew any better. I don't think he was socially um, intelligent. I don't look at him as necessarily socially awkward, because I think all of us are a little socially awkward, right? All of us. It just makes sense. We're all a little different. But I don't think he was clued into people, connected into what they were saying. I think he was just very insecure, and worried about what people were thinking about him, and everything of that nature. And that is exactly how he felt about Shanann. He often says now, within a few of his interviews that he's done, that he never felt like he was himself around her, like he could be himself around her. And that's going to be very difficult when you're married to someone. And I could understand why as well, because his mother pins it and nails it perfectly when she says that Shanann criticized Chris all the time, criticized Chris. Chris could never have peace. Shanann was just on him. And so I think that had a lot to do with him feeling like he was not the best husband that he could be for Shanann, and also feel like he couldn't do enough, because he did so much. He did all the cleaning for the kids. He made sure everyone had their medication, because the kids also had asthma. And so, he had a lot of hats. Now, there's no excuse for what he did, right? But I would say all of those hats is what encouraged him to go have the affair that he had with Nicole. Now, this video is not about Nicole, but I do want to say that she was his mistress, and I do want to say that there's so many other people in this series that I'm going to be doing with you that are quite interesting. So there's two Nicoles actually, and the second Nicole, or we should call her the first Nicole, because she's the one who is part and parcel responsible for breaking the whole entire case. She's Shanann's friend, and she was the one that was worried about Shanann and was the reason for all of this kind of hitting the fan within hours after it happened. So she's a superstar. Yes, shouts out to Nicole Atkinson, the friend of Shanann that was right there, had her girls back. So, I'm going to be doing a separate video about her, a separate video about both of the parents of Chris and Shanann, right? Because there's Cindy, and then there's Ronnie, and then there's also on the other side, Shanann's mother and father, and Shanann's brothers, who I really want to do a video on as well, because he is just such an amazing soul. He lost everything. He loved and accepted Chris. Like, Chris was his brother. Her family loved and accepted Chris. Chris's mother didn't like Shanann, but Shanann did like Chris's dad, right? But there were clear arguments between Cindy Watts and Shanann Watts, and I just feel that Cindy should have held it down a few times. Cindy should have went to the wedding. She didn't go to her own son's wedding. There are a lot of things that she should have done and didn't, and I think if she did change things, it would have changed the course of time a little bit. But I'm not blaming Cindy, because you know what? Life is supposed to be what it's supposed to be. Okay? Life unfolds as it should. So I'm just saying, what makes more sense is learning from it. And I think Cindy could learn from it in ways where she could counsel other mothers right now, not just mothers who are grieving, but support your sons. If Shanann was not that much of a bad woman, then sarado tu boca, close your mouth, right? Shanann was a loving woman. She loved Chris. She loved her children. She was a good mom. And now she's gone. And Cindy, man, you could have just pretended you liked her, fake like her. You didn't live with her. You know what I mean? Sometimes our selfishness can just go a little too far, and I think we all can learn from this story a lot. Cindy, maybe one day you'll teach people, how to accept others. As a Christian woman, maybe you will learn to accept others and turn the other cheek through this situation. And hopefully your son will still continue to preach in jail. Chris is preaching in jail, guys. Like, not really preaching, but he's reading the Bible and speaking biblical words. I'm sure he is sad every day about what he's done, and he thinks about it every day, almost every day. But he is still, settling out in prison and getting used to his lifestyle there. So that's quite interesting. And he's also trying to get out. But I digress. Those videos are for later. Throughout these series, I'm also going to talk about Nate. Nate is his next door neighbor who got a lot of footage. Not a lot. It's kind of grainy and dark, but there's enough footage, and that is enough to kind of read through and see through, and to understand that, yeah, there was something different going on that night. And that's right next door. And Nate himself, well, Nate is just like the type of dude who is cool and down. He's an investigator himself. He was like on top of it. He's like, oh, this guy's acting weird. This guy's acting all shifty. Like, there's something up. There's something up. Look at the video. Look at the video. Blah, blah, blah. He was calling it out. And he was trying to tell the police officers, Chris is up to no good. Something's up. And so Nate is someone who I want to make a video of, because he just seems like a cool dude, down to earth. And then there's also, okay, so I already said Nicole, who's the best friend, who kind of broke all of this. And then there's the mistress, Nicole. And then there's Nate. And then there's the parents. And then there's also the brother of Shanann. And there is, oh my gosh, someone else, I'm pretty sure. Well, there's a girl named Cassie. And she's a good friend. I think she was one of the best friends as well. And Nicole and Shanann were new best friends for like a little over a year maybe, and they were new best friends. So that goes to show you how close Shanann was able to get to people and make them feel good about themselves. Now, just back to Chris and who he is. He was working at one point, and he went to school for what he was working. Like, I think it was like something like engineers, cars, or something of this nature. Like, he liked a lot of cars, fast cars and stuff. And so he had his job, and then he lost his job. And then him and Shanann, they moved to Colorado with her parents. And then once they were in Colorado, he got a job at the mining, in the mining industry, and he was like a supervisor outside, and like on site and everything, and where he eventually left her body and his two daughters' bodies. I'll get to that. And so in tankers, he left one daughter in an oil tanker, the other daughter in another oil tanker, and then he left his wife in a shallow dug grave. Yeah. When it comes to Chris, he was tired. He had his mom that controlled his life. He got with a woman who he thought was a damsel in distress. When he met her, he was like, wow, she's sick. I'm going to take care of her and everything. But then he realized how strong she was, and he just ended up following her. That was it. He just became her puppy dog, and everything she wanted is everything he did. And was he ready to do that with her? I don't think so. I think, he followed her and got him. I don't think he was ready for any of that. I think he should have just stayed his ass home for another 4 years, and then went and ventured out when he was like 30, 31, but no, he wanted to do everything. And I'm not saying that it's regret. I'm just saying that, he followed her, and she was like his new mother. And then he just did everything she said. And I think she enjoyed that, because he's a nice looking dude. And it's like, what's up with him? Why is this handsome guy like kissing the heels of this woman? What is he, a sadist? There's something not normal, right? And again, his mom says that he's socially awkward and stuff like that, but still, there was something not normal. And so anyway, yeah, he was, even when he was playing with his children, she would be like, he's the perfect dad, because she didn't realize that this man was just doing too much. Too much. Even some of the videos, the kids are on his back and he's doing push-ups and he's doing all, oh, it was all about her. All what she needed, all what she wanted. And you know what? He was giving it to her because he didn't have any substance within himself to make it about him too. And near the end, she started to get an inclination. Shanann was like, oh shoot, like, wait a minute. I think I'm making all this about me. I think he's not very happy. I'm going to start making him happy. And she was willing to change. Big time. Big time. She even bought a book from Amazon, and she had the electronic one that she was reading, and she had the hard copy sent to him at the house as she was at a convention out of town. I'm going to get to that in another video when I do a video about Shanann, because I want to let you know what she did and how hard she worked and what company she worked with and what products she worked with, you know, and I got to tell you, I got to say that I say what company she worked with and not what company she worked for, because she didn't work for them. She worked with them. She was more like a partner for them because she ran their product really greatly. Now, that's another thing too. Did the product have anything to do with his behavior? Because that's another thing, and I'm going to get to what the product was. For now, let's just talk about Chris Watts, because that's what the first video should be about. So we have this guy, he's socially awkward as a child. He doesn't really had relationships. His longest relationships was 6 months before Shanann, and then now Shanann and him are married. They moved to Colorado because he lost his job, and now he's working with the mining company. They're living with her parents, and now, you know, she has her first child and she has her second child. Her parents are now back in North Carolina, and the four of them are all living together, and she's expecting a new baby, a little boy. And they are pretty much broke. They're home for almost foreclosure. Hardly any money. Now, she didn't cheat on him. She was not doing anything behind his back maliciously. And he wasn't doing anything behind her back maliciously until 6 weeks before he took her life. Now, the money they were spending was all her buying pretty nice things. Chris wasn't spending any money that was unusual, like on, you know, sex hotlines or anything. There's nothing to find out about him where the money was going. So Shanann was spending a heck of a lot of money on a heck of a lot of material items, and you can see it within their house. Their home is like beautifully decorated, and it just doesn't match their income. And I guess it's a perfect example of an American couple living beyond their means. So now Chris decides that, you know, he's going to have this affair. But it doesn't go down as easy as that. Like, he wasn't thinking about cheating or anything like that. He was the perfect husband. He just didn't know how unhappy he was. He was not ready for everything that he was living. You know, I really feel that the guy just needed a little bit more time to breathe in life. And I feel also that Shanann didn't realize that, you know, it's not normal to be able to control a person like that. You know, I think she controlled him and didn't even realize she was controlling him. I think people just thought he was a nice guy and he loved her and he just worshiped the ground that she walked on and did everything for her. You can see where she can be a little critical, you know, and if she's critical like that on camera, then how much more critical could she be in person without the camera on? And so I can get where Cindy is coming from. And if Cindy was saying that Shanann was bold enough to do it in front of Cindy, then yeah, she didn't have any control over it. And Chris also said in one of his interviews that the girls started to treat him with sarcastic remarks as well, which he didn't like. Shanann had very little control over her sarcasm, and also her, she did realize that near the end of her life, she did started to realize that she needed to be a little bit more compassionate, and she needed to speak nicely to people and kindly. And Chris was not a bad guy, and she didn't need to be teasing him the way that she did. And she really did start to put two and two together, but man, it was just too late. And you know what? He already had a plan in his head to get rid of her. And I don't know, did he have that plan for like months? Did he have that plan before he met Nicole? Did he have that plan? How long did he have the plan for? It didn't seem like it was too well thought out. But like, who really wants to think out that type of a plan? Taking your whole family? He was enjoying himself for like weeks upon end with Nicole, and there was just no way he wanted that to come to an end. So I think his plan was just really instinctive. I can understand good loving, but I can't understand when a man gives it up and gives up everything for a little something. Oh gosh, this is what he did. And I'm not laughing at him, I'm just laughing at the mentality behind it. Like, why didn't he think of divorce? I think that would have been smart. But no, he just thinks that he's going to take the lives of his family, and nobody's ever going to think twice about it. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, someone took your children, someone took your wife. Let's pray they come home. So thank you guys for joining me. I'm Cerise. Please join me for part 2 when I get into the relationship between Nicole Kessinger and also Chris Watts. What their driving force was, why she was so enticing to him, and what did she do to get him to want her so badly. We're also going to talk about Shanann Watts and how smart she was when she was confronting Chris on his strange behavior. Her intuition was on fire, and she was shooting him questions and why he was spending money at a certain restaurant. Oh, she was on to him. She knew. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the next part of this whole entire series.